When the woman went to wake her son up for dinner, she saw the livor mortis on his body but wasn't afraid at all, and even pointed at the body to complain repeatedly, scolding him for fighting with others again outside. She didn't realize her son had been dead for a long time. After scolding, she turned around and left, mumbling to herself, "Go ahead and keep pretending to sleep if you dare." It turned out that a few days ago, when Mingza was painting in his room, a venomous snake crawled into his trouser leg. A sudden sharp pain made him collapse to the ground. Seeing the bite marks on his leg and the snake on the ground, he finally understood what had happened. Mingza rushed to the living room immediately, found his mom and said he was bitten by a venomous snake. But his mom said if he was out of his mind. His sister also said with a sneer, "How could there be snakes in the city? Did he think he was still in his poor mountain village?" Mom told him to get back to his small room right away, and stop pretending to be pitiful for attention. Seeing that none of them believed him, he had to go to the hospital by himself. However, after the doctor pulled him back from the brink of death, he brought another bad news. The doctor said he had acute leukemia, and needed to be hospitalized for treatment immediately. The operation fee would be at least 200,000 yuan. Mingza hurried back home, wanting to ask his mom for money for treatment, but when he knocked on the door, the nanny told him to get back to his room and reflect on his mistakes, and stop being a nuisance here. Mingza trembled as he returned to his small room, thinking about his experiences over the years. He cursed the unfairness of fate in his heart. It turned out that he was swapped with someone else as a child, and taken to live in a mountain village. It wasn't until 3 years ago that his parents found him and brought him back. At first, the whole family was very kind to him. However, the adopted son of the family kept scheming against him every day. One day he even framed Mingza for stealing dad's watch, planning to sell it for money. Mingza wanted to say he didn't steal it, but he was tongue-tied and didn't know how to explain. At this moment, the scheming boy added fuel to the fire and told dad that brother might just be curious and wanted to take a look. When dad heard this, he picked up a whip and beat Mingza until he was covered in wounds. From then on, under the constant framing of the scheming boy, the family became more and more disgusted with him, and even sent him to sleep in a warehouse full of sundries. At this moment his leukemia suddenly flared up. Before he died, he thought about everything since returning to his biological parents. He closed his eyes unwillingly. It wasn't until the next night, Mom saw that he hadn't come to eat all day, angrily went to the warehouse. It turned out that after he said he was bitten by a snake that day, he never returned to his room. Little did she know that the family's nanny had long been bribed by the scheming boy. Stopping Mingza at the door that day was the scheming boy's idea. In fact, he was the one who let the venomous snake in. But Mom was kept in the dark all the time. She kept nagging and scolding Mingza on the bed, wondering if he had been fooling around with bad friends these 2 days. It turned out that the scheming boy had been telling her that he saw Mingza going in and out of various bars with those dyed yellow hair guys. So in Mom's heart, Mingza was an idle hooligan. But after scolding for a long time, she saw that he still didn't move on the bed. Mom directly lifted the quilt. When she saw the livor mortis on his body, Mom thought it was wounds from fighting. She cursed Mingza again and left. After returning to the restaurant, she was still complaining to the family, saying Mingza was really an ungrateful white-eyed wolf. At this moment, the scheming boy could barely hold back his laughter, but he still pretended to speak up for Mingza, saying it was all his fault. If he had stopped brother when he saw him going to those places, maybe this wouldn't have happened. Mom told him not to speak for that white-eyed wolf again. But the next day, Mingza's body began to decompose and smell. Everyone in the living room smelled a strange odor, not knowing where it came from. They thought it was because the servants didn't clean the trash can properly. But the next day, the odor still existed. Mom asked the nanny what was wrong with the smell. The nanny told her the smell was coming from young Master Mingza's room. Mom thought it was because Mingza was from the countryside and didn't pay attention to hygiene. She told the nanny to go clean it up. But when the nanny arrived at the door, she found the door was locked from the inside. She immediately contacted the lady who was out. Mom told her, if it's locked, just leave him be. If he likes the smell, let him smell it to his heart's content. But time passed quickly. Another 3 days passed. One day the whole family came back from traveling elsewhere and found that Mingza's room was still tightly closed. Everyone outside the door was overwhelmed by the pungent odor and couldn't stand it anymore. Mom finally lost her patience, roared crazily outside the door, telling Mingza to get out. After knocking repeatedly with no response, the whole family finally realized something was wrong. Dad let out a roar of anger, deciding to kick the door open.